It's Friday. Time to share with you what's gone on this week. And oh, it's been a powerful week. So many great things have happened. So many astounding things have happened, both large and small. I'm being inspired to share this story first, but I'm going to share the story that I'm inspired to share. My broader perspective is saying, share this story. So I'm going to do that. But I want to give you an overview of what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to be talking about this story that my broader perspective wants me to share with you, a wonderful rendezvous, and how it shows how negative things are not negative. And then I'm going to talk about dreams, especially in the light of me conferring the title of master on one of my advanced practitioners. I got a new client this week, and I want to talk about how that happened. And then I just want to touch briefly on a shapeshifting development and the response that my viewers and readers are having to those developments. And then I want to talk briefly. I want to rampage about Tesla's announcement. I think it was this week. It might have been, let's see, when was it? Got my notes here. Yeah, it was this week. Tesla announced their fourth master plan, and I want to talk about that too because I'm super excited, and I want to talk about it as a way of amplifying the unfolding manifestation that is the Star Trek future that is being enabled largely by Tesla, but by other beings as well. So we got a lot to talk about today. First, the story. And by the way, so your broader perspective is always communicating to you, but if you can't perceive that communication, you're missing out on so much, such rich experiences and opportunities and wisdom. And of course, it's always communicating, but if you are not tuned into that communication, you can't hear it. And so you can't have the magical experiences that my clients and I are having. And what I'm about to share with you, this story, my broader perspective wants me to share with you, is evidence, an example of that. It's evidence of how wonderfully your life can go when you're adopting the positive perspective that your broader perspective is offering. So I'm just going to pause this for a second and make sure that my table is at the right height. Okay, yeah, we're set. So here's the story. There is a person I am interested in having a relationship with. I'm not going to describe it any more than that, but I will say that the person is someone who works at a grocery store I frequent. And I often see her when I go to the grocery store. And so this week, I intended to see her. I try not to make this happen. Like, I try not to, through doing, kind of force rendezvousing with her. Instead, what I want to do is have the universe and my broader perspective inspire me to go to the grocery store with such timing that she will be there. Now, I don't know her schedule. We've talked. I know her name. She knows my name. We've talked a lot, but we've never exchanged numbers or gone anything beyond me chatting her up at the checkout stand. So I don't know what her schedule is. And sometimes I go to the grocery store and she's not there. Sometimes I go and she's there. And so I leave it up to my broader perspective to inspire me to go and see whether or not I'm going to rendezvous with her. Well, yesterday, I had the impulse to go and went to the grocery store and got a bunch of groceries. And one of the items that I purchased was this big plank of salmon. And I checked it out. I checked out all my groceries and I drove home. She was not there. And when I got home, I was thinking about having not rendezvoused with her and wondering if I would. And I was wondering as I was unpacking my groceries, and I pulled out this plank of salmon with the intention of cutting it into 6 portions or so that I 5 of which I could put in the freezer. And when I opened up the package, this stench came wafting out of the package. The salmon was rotten. Now, I can imagine that you're right now thinking about how gross that is, and maybe feeling appalled that the grocery store would keep salmon on the shelf so long as for it to go rotten on the shelf. Those thoughts didn't cross my mind. What the thought that did cross my mind was, I'm going to take this salmon back. And then I thought, I wonder if I'm going to see Kiki there. Kiki is the person's name. And so I hurriedly packed up the salmon, and I was rushing a bit because I wanted to make sure I got back to the grocery store at a reasonable time to show them that I had just bought the salmon, so that there would be no question with regard to their taking this piece of salmon back. So I packed it all up, I put it in my backpack, and I got on my bike and headed back to the store. And as I was heading back to the store, I just had a strong sense that this rendezvous, this unfolding, was being orchestrated by the universe, my broader perspective, and my intentions. You can tell where this story's going. So I got to the grocery store and I went up to the manager's counter, and he was attending someone else who had bought some lottery tickets. He told me to wait over by the coin machine, which I did. And as I was waiting, like I said, you knew where this is coming. Guess who came in the grocery store? Kiki had come in and had checked in, put in her employee number in the HR department computer or whatever it's called, and then walked over to the produce section. Now, I didn't engage with her because I didn't feel the impulse to do so. But what I did do was I reveled in that manifestation. The whole point of that unfolding wasn't for me to rendezvous with Kiki. It was to show me exactly what I'm telling you, which is the mystical nature of all that is, which includes physical reality, also includes experiences that are always positive. Every experience is positive. But, and here it is, if you don't interpret the experiences that way, you cannot experience the delightful experiences like this one. Such a good story, such a good example of how everything that happens in our life experience is positive. I was about to say everything that happens to us is positive, but things don't happen to us. They happen for us as a response to our inner emanation, the emanation containing everything we want. So good. All right, so that's the first story my broader perspective wanted me to share with you. The second thing I want to talk about is dreams. So this week, I have two advanced clients who have really turned up the volume on their dream experiences. The first client, he's really struggling. Like me, he has a particular person he's enamored with and wants to rendezvous with her. But there's a lot of momentum of distortion going on between the two of them, which keeps them separate. He's been wanting to use the positively focused practice, the positively focused framework, to draw her back into his experience. But he has a whole lot of negative stories about the past in their relationship, about her and about him, that makes that challenging for him. And recently he's been focusing on the positively focused dream work, in which we tune ourselves more clearly into what's happening in our dreams. This is really important because our dreams, your dreams and my dreams and everyone else's dreams, are helping us understand where we are on the path to everything we want. In the dream state, we're also soothing the negative momentum, the resistance that is keeping us from having everything we want. But if you don't know that, and you have the dream, and everyone dreams, you have the dreams, and then you come back into wake state, not having realized what happened in the dream state, more often than not, you're amplifying the resistance that is preventing the things you want to come into your life experience. This is just one of the reasons why dreams are so critical in order to successfully navigate life experience. So this client, through the positively focused framework and the advanced dream work practice, started having dreams. Now, he's always had dreams, just like you, just like everyone else. He just wasn't able to perceive his dreams because of the resistance he would take into sleep. But he's done a really good job soothing that resistance, and now he's having these dreams. But he had two dreams that were extremely beneficial in the sense that they showed him where he is on the path to having this woman in his life. And the dreams, they don't lie. They're very accurate with regard to where you are relative to what you're wanting. And these two dreams showed him that he's nowhere near being able to realize this person back into his life experience. The challenge with this client is he cannot see that this is a blessing, knowing where he is on his journey. Instead, he's doubling down on his negativity. He's feeling bad for being where he is instead of seeing the rotten salmon that is the dream, seeing that this is a good thing, knowing where he is, because now he's really clear on where he is and he knows what he needs to do in order to move forward. But instead, he's lamenting where he is. That's a problem because he's perceiving the rotten salmon as negative, and it's actually a positive thing, just like the rotten salmon was in my case. So good. Now I can see why my broader perspective wanted me to share that story first, because the rotten salmon concept is exactly the perfect analogy to describe what's happening with both of the clients. So that's the first client story. He's struggling this week, trying to pull himself out of a hole of negativity, which is actually a positive thing because negativity, negative emotions, sadness, despair, he was feeling defeated is the word he used. Even that emotion, those kinds of emotions are telling you something you really want to know. So they're positive, they're not negative. They feel negative because they feel shitty. It feels shitty to feel defeated, but your feeling of feeling shitty is because you're not interpreting the defeat you're feeling as a positive thing. Life experience is very sophisticated, and emotions are a sophisticated aspect of the sophistication that is life experience. And if you don't know how to interpret them, more often than not, like this client, you just amplify the resistance, and that keeps you from realizing what you want and move further from what you want. So that's what this client realized. The second client is really good. The second client is the client who I conferred the title of master on last week. And one of the reasons why she received that title is because, that accomplishment actually, is because she realized something I had been telling her for quite some time relative to her business, which is it's her vibrational acumen, her vibrational mastery that is drawing to her the customers that are resulting in the growth of her company. Not her marketing, not her blogging, not any of the things that she thinks she has to do in order to get clients. It took her a while to get there, but now she's realizing that it's ease and joy that's drawing customers, not nose to the grindstone. So in addition to realizing that, she also realized that consuming cannabis and drinking alcohol was working against her with regard to her expansion. And so it took her a while. It took her probably 8 months to get to this point. But about a month and a half ago, she stopped consuming weed and she stopped drinking alcohol. And lo and behold, she started having the most amazing dreams, really powerful dreams that were showing her all kinds of actions she was taking in non-physical in order to align in the physical reality with the material desires she has. And of course, unlike the previous client I was talking about, she is on fire about wanting to know more about her dream state because she's in a different place relative to the previous client. The previous client is struggling because he's resisting what he wants and his dreams are showing him that the more he resists, the less he gets what he wants. This other client is doing the exact opposite. She's reveling in what she wants, and she's doing the work, the positively focused practices, in order to soothe the resistance. And as she does that, she's getting more and more of what she's wanting. And so she's excited, and her dreams are reflecting that. Dreams are super powerful. I'm going to produce a separate blog or a separate video about dream interpretations to give you an idea of how to interpret your own dreams. Dreams are very, very powerful. But the problem with dream imagery is that the imagery itself is highly symbolic. So you have to understand how to interpret the symbology in order to understand what dreams are telling you. I'll create that video and post it in a little while. Okay, the other thing I wanted to talk about this morning in this raw blog is kind of like touching on my expansion with regard to shapeshifting. So when I first wrote the first blog, I think I wrote it as, I think the title is something like The Practical Guide to Becoming a Shapeshifter. I was a little bit nervous about doing so because I was concerned about how my readers would react. But as I continued to follow that blog with other blog posts, I started to get responses to that post that, frankly, were surprising. People were writing me, asking me to show them how what I'm doing. Now, back when I got those messages, I knew that that was evidence of my own success in becoming a shapeshifter. That was about 6 months ago that I started getting those messages. And then I started to perceive the physical evidence in my body, as well as the dream evidence in non-physical, that I am progressing and near very close to achieving the ability to shapeshift. Well, this week, I got another indication of that success in response, as in the form of another commenter on my blog who wrote, let's see if I can get there without messing this up. The message she wrote, I'm going to post it also here so that you can see it. The message she wrote was, after reading the practical guide on how to become a shapeshifter, she wrote, "Whoa, it felt weird reading this, like some kind of feeling, almost like a bird trying to escape its cage. Is there going to be an update soon?" Well, in response to her, I sent a message directing her to the videos here on the YouTube channel where I talk about shapeshifting, and also to the series on shapeshifting that I've written on my blogs, describing my own progress and alluding to the processes that allow anyone to become a shapeshifter. But what's really cool about Marlo's message is what she perceived while she was reading my blog post. And what she was perceiving was vibrational resonance. Here's the thing, you guys. This is so good. You come into physical reality on the leading edge. You're here to express what others have not expressed. You're not here to do what everyone else is doing. And in that pre-wired state, when you come into the vicinity with evidence in your physical reality that aligns or turns on those core leading edge intentions within you, you feel like a whoa moment, like Marlo had there. What Marlo was experiencing, where they were describing feeling like a bird wanting to get out of the cage, is vibrational resonance with what she's reading, which means, I don't know if it's a woman or a man, Marlo. It could be either one, couldn't it? Which means that Marlo has come pre-wired themselves to be a shapeshifter. That's why they resonated so powerfully with the content they read. I'm sure if they continue to read and watch the content I'm producing relative to that subject, shapeshifting, they will also move into the vicinity of realizing the unfolding of themselves becoming a shapeshifter. I am not the only one in physical reality who's having this desire. In my Universe 101 video, I talk about how thoughts are aware just as we are and are thinking just as we do. And those thoughts are constantly looking for avenues through which they can fulfill themselves fully. And one of the ways those thoughts do that is they align themselves or move toward points of consciousnesses, human beings, who are aligned with the thought, so that when the two come together, the human being and the thought, the human being gains inspiration and then follows through on fulfilling the thought, the idea. And so I said in the Universe 101 video I created that multiple people can get the same idea at the same time, and some of those people will take it to a certain degree of fulfillment but then quit. Others will get the inspiration and not do anything, and then others will take that inspiration and run with it to the full fulfillment. So if I'm here aligning with becoming a shapeshifter and manifesting evidence of that in my life, and also attracting others who are saying, show me how you're doing what you're doing, there has to be other people who have that same desire within them, because the idea of becoming a shapeshifter is seeding itself into physical reality. And I believe Marlo is another one of those people. Oh, so much goodness happening in the world right now. And so interesting how magical every moment is. What I just said, it's so interesting what's coming into the world right now, or something like that I just said. That was a perfect segue to what I want to talk about next, which is what Tesla announced this past week. But it wasn't something that I had set up. It wasn't something I had intended to say as a segue, but it's a perfect segue. I love it. I love how the universe interacts with every single one of us in every instant of our life to provide us surprising and delightful experiences. But if you're not tuned in, if you are not focused on being purely positive, which is what all that is, it's purely positive, then you can't hear these messages, you can't get these inspirations, and you can't have these wonderful, delightful, surprising unfoldings like the one I'm rampaging on over the last 2 minutes now. It's just so cool. Okay, Tesla's announcement. So this week, Tesla published, so good, an announcement on X about Master Plan number 4 that can be summed up, and they sum it up in these 2 words: sustainable abundance. What I call the Star Trek future. This is so thrilling from my perspective, because it is speaking of thoughts and ideas seeding multiple people, it is a belief I knew was real and possible for humanity to experience a world of sustainable abundance, where everything anyone could want within reason can be realized for them with hardly any expenditure of money. And you could say for free. That's where we're heading. And on the leading edge of that unfolding is Elon Musk's Tesla. So this week, they revealed Master Plan 4, which is creating a global condition of sustainable abundance based on stellar core energies. If you don't know what the stellar core energies are, I will include a link to that blog or that video that I created a couple weeks ago about stellar core energies. Based on stellar core energies, autonomous robots, so good, and full self-driving technologies. What's cool about Master Plan 4, it's kind of like the evidence of my shape-shifting experiences, proving the next step of shape-shifting possible. What's cool about Master Plan 4 is that the 3 master plans Tesla announced previously have all either been accomplished or are in the process of substantial accomplishment. The first plan that they published in 2006 was their intention of building a high-end sports car and use its proceeds to develop a more affordable car, and then use those proceeds to create an even more affordable car, while at the same time offering zero emission electric power generation. So that's exactly what Tesla did over the ensuing 10 years. They created the Roadster, the funding of which they used to create the Model S, which was more affordable. The funding that they got from that, the revenue they got from that, they used to generate Model 3, which was even more affordable than Model S. And the proceeds that they got from that, they are now using to create the zero emission electric power generation, which they call Tesla Energy. So that was master plan number 1. Master plan number 2, which they released in 2016, was to broaden the product line of Tesla automobiles to include SUVs, pickups, trucks, and vans, expand energy products like solar and storage, and to launch a ride-sharing robotaxi service using autonomous vehicles. If you're paying attention to Tesla, every single one of those things have been accomplished. Yes, the Cybertruck sucks, but everything else is unfolding right according to plan. Master plan number 3 was to outline a pathway to achieve sustainable energy, to achieve a sustainable energy economy globally, transition transportation, homes, and industry to electricity powered by renewables, solar and wind, and batteries, and present a 5-step framework for achieving full electrification of society. The reason why this master plan number 3 is important is because when we achieve full electrification of society with sustainable solar, wind, and battery storage, I talked about this in the Stellar Core video, then energy becomes almost free. The energy from the sun will power all of human society. When you combine that with humanoid robots and other form factors, and the software, autonomous software that allows them to operate without human intervention, then you eliminate like 99% of the cost of producing anything. 80% of the cost is labor. The rest is essentially the energy necessary to produce that thing that the labor produces. And so if your energy is next to nothing in terms of costs, and your labor is 24-hour, 7 days a week capable and operating on that energy, it doesn't need food, it doesn't need breaks, it doesn't need any of that, then suddenly you've eliminated 99% of the cost of producing anything. And so this is why a full electrification of society is important. And Master Plan 3 is well underway. Tesla's Master Plan 3 is well underway. Master Plan 4 builds on all of these, which is creating a society in which all of us, not just Americans, all of us on the planet enjoy sustainable abundance. Now, I'm just thrilled with that outcome. I'm thrilled with that master plan because it's providing the context for the AI and spirit convergence that I see and talk about in these videos. It's the future. And in that future, think about it. If anything you want can come to you virtually for free, that means you don't have to be spending your time doing a whole bunch of labor. And if that's the case, what are you going to do with all that freed up time? Yes, be with loved ones, but at some point, I believe there's going to be an inflection where you're going to have to choose between feeling like many people do today, summed up in the phrase, "Is this all there is?" Or moving toward a greater understanding of what you are, which is an eternal, pure, positive, rambunctious, constantly expanding spiritual being. And when you find yourself living from there, as you've heard throughout this blog this morning, your life becomes charmed, where every moment offers you inspiration, joy, positive experiences, and a total absence of negative experiences. That may sound as impossible as Tesla's master plan number 4, but just like with master plan 3, 2, and 1, the positively focused framework has demonstrated to me evidence proving what I just said is accurate. I forgot to mention, lastly, I got a new client this week. That new client has come through the client I spoke about before, upon whom I conferred the title master. One of the wonderful things about the positively focused framework is when a person puts it into place in their life, not only does their life radically change for the better, but people around them look at them and are amazed at the change, and then they want to know how that person got to where they are. And then they want their version of it. That's what happened with this new client that I received this week. This new client came as a result of watching this client who is now a master in this practice and seeing how her life has dramatically transformed. And so she wants to become a client too, to get what this master client has gotten. This master client has not only influenced through her life experience, not through her words, not only has influenced this new client, but also influenced her partner, who is a client, and 2 other friends who have become clients. So there must be something to this positively focused framework that I'm sharing with you. There must be something to it. My business, this positively focused practice, is growing not by marketing on the internet, not by sales pitches. The way this business is growing and flourishing is through expansion, through my existing clients transforming their lives, getting lives they love and the results they want without the hustle or the grind, and then people in their lives see those changes in those people and want what they have realized, and then they come to the practice. In other words, my life and my clients' lives are the living proof of what I talk about in the positively focused practice. If you want to find out how you can get what my clients are getting, feel free to reach out to me. In the meantime, I will see you in the comments and see you in the next video.